We've got tremendous opportunity, tremendous challenge, all in the same, this week against a very fine University of Central Florida, football team, ranked in the top 25. You see why they're where they're at, just watching them play. So again, we're going to have to make sure that our attention to detail and reaction is going to be good as we go down there. We're pretty healthy this week. Expect to have everybody for the game. Don't expect anybody to miss unless something happened during the week here in practice. But expect to have everybody back. That was playing that didn't finish the game last weekend. So, any questions?
Randy, do you sell this to your team as just another game, or do you actually let them know this is kind of a step up, kind of a competition for them?
I'm always the type, Joe, that I'm going to be very upfront and honest with our team. I'm not going to tell them something that isn't factual or isn't true. I'm told them we're going to have to step our game up quite a bit. This week we have the ability to do that, but I'm not going to lead them down a path that isn't going to get them to where they want to go. And with that, sometimes it's a little harsh. It's a little hard. But if we want to do the things that we want to do, and if they want to accomplish the things that they want to as a team, then you got to, each and every week you have to step up. But again, the challenge this week is even bigger and better, because again, this will be the best team that we've played so far this year. So, that's something that I'm not going to hold back and, tell them something that, like I said, isn't factual.
What can you do to get your running game going? I know that the opponents have been tough the last 2 weeks.
It's not real hard, Gavin. It's called doing your job, coming off the ball, playing with good fundamentals and technique, and having more of a will and want to than the guy across from you. And then backs got to read their keys and make the proper cuts. But running the football, to me, that's all will and want to and fundamentals and technique. It's you're double teaming to a linebacker, or you're single blocking, and if we can block the one-on-ones or the two-on-ones, and coming off, and we're getting some push there later in the game on the one side, those are the things. And really, to me, it's like life. Everything's want to. How much want to do you have to go out there and to be the best you can be on each and every play? Okay? Some plays it might not work out, but then you come back and don't worry about that play. Go to the next one, and you just keep doing it. That to me is how you get it going. We're not going to sit here and devise any supernatural plays that they haven't seen or anything along those lines. It just comes down to blocking and driving people off the ball, and backs making the right reads.
On that, have you seen a different mentality from that group, the offensive line, through practice this week?
Again, there's guys that have played well in spots, but were not consistent enough. Last week, Rob Holmes gave us a little bit more push, on that side. When you watch the tape, you don't see people at the line of scrimmage. You actually saw a guy, when him and Vandermark doubled, you saw a guy 2 to 3 yards off the ball. Well, now it's a lot easier to run the ball and get up in there and press the blocks and make the cuts, as a running back. There's not a lot of great running backs, even the great ones. They got to get some push. They're not going to be able to get it all done, all by themselves. That'll help. But that's the thing that we just have to continue to work on, and continue to get better, especially when you're going against teams that a little bit bigger than you are. And again, when you take a look, the offensive line, Nino's got to step it up. He's been around. Matt's got to step it up. He's been around. We made a change there, and Vandy's just got to continue to grow. And Christian, you know, he's not a freshman anymore. He's played 3 games. He's a redshirt freshman, you know, Rob Holmes. So, you know, now it's, hey, everybody's new. Everybody's been here, whether it's a freshman who just started playing this year. We have 3 games on our belt. We played at home, we played on the road. So now you know what the expectations are when you have to go on the road and play. And, you know, so nobody's young anymore. You know, you don't want to continue. It's the truth, but you're out there playing. So you can't have a crutch. You can't have an excuse. You just got to go out and play to the best of your ability, you know, each and every play. And nobody's ever played a perfect game. I don't ask anybody to say that they're going to play a perfect game. But just go out there, you know, and give it all you have, and it's like anything else. Sometimes you don't make a big sale in life, in sales, if you're in sales or whatever profession you're in, sometimes that happens. So you learn from it, you go back and you say, okay, I got to do this differently, I got to make this adjustment. That's all football is.
Randy, you wanted to mention just Dylan Gabriel gave them a quarterback that maybe they didn't have.
I'm very impressed with him as a true freshman. You know, you can see he's been well coached coming out of high school. You know, makes good decisions, good athlete, throws the deep ball very, very well. You know, being a left-hander, I mean, that ball looks like it's just floating right down from a cloud, you know, to those guys when you're really studying and watching. He's very accurate on the deep ball, you know, and but just his whole makeup that you watch and you see how he handles everything, you know, is very, very impressive. Got a good grasp of what they're doing.
Kevon Jones has made some big plays so far. What have you thought of his transition to the new position, and what does he still have to improve on?
You know, KK, you know, I love the kid to death, and I'm just trying to find the best way to reach him and continue to motivate him, because I think that he's got tremendous upside, and I think he's shown that. You know, and you guys been around for a while, have heard me say, but, you know, he's one of those guys, boy, you give him the sugar, he gets fat, you know, and so it's hard you got to give him some sugar once in a while, but you got to give him some carrots once in a while too, you know, and you got to give him a kick in the rear to keep him grounded, and, but I think he's making progress, and I think he can, if he wants to really work at it, and really be good, he could be one of the better ones we've had around here. You know, if he really wants it bad enough. And you see those signs, but it's got to be that consistency stuff. And what he has to do, he has to listen to the right people. And if he does that, then, but he's making that transition. He's done a lot of good things, and he likes the game. He likes to play. You know, that's one thing. He likes to play. And now we got to help him refine all that. We got to help him do those other things to take him from this level to this level to that level.
Can you coach, want to? Isn't that?
If a guy doesn't want it, Joe, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. You know, you'll die trying as a coach. You know, but man, you talk about draining. If a guy doesn't want to, man, I don't want him on my team. It's too hard. It's too hard. You know. I mean, to me, you shouldn't be here if you don't want it. You know, football's a hard game. It's a very hard game. It's physical. You know, you're out there today in 95-degree heat inside because of what we're trying to get assimilated to before we go down there. You know, it's hard. And if you don't have the want to, boy, don't waste my time or don't waste your teammates' time.
Don't some of these kids think they have the want to and they don't really know what the want to is?
Some of them, but you know, that's where I think, Joe, what happens is you can eliminate a lot of that through the recruiting process, so you don't make that mistake. You know, I think that's probably one of the biggest things. You got to find that out during the recruiting process, and if you can find out by watching tape, or watching a practice, talking to a lot of different people at that school to find out if that person has that makeup. You know, I learned long ago, and you guys heard me tell you this story, Bobby Regal. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he was a scout for the Atlanta Falcons. And when I was at Syracuse, we had a player there, I won't mention his name, and I made a comment to him, you know, but once he leaves us and goes to the next level, he'll be okay. And I was a young guy, you know, at that time. Still a young guy looking, but not on the inside. But he said, Randy, let me tell you something. He says, you know, you're just growing in this business. He said, if he ain't doing it for you, he ain't all of a sudden flip the switch and do it for us. You know, and it's the same thing. The kid hasn't really demonstrated that in high school, or if you haven't seen at least the ability to do that, because when you get here, it's a lot harder. You know, so you know that's where you try to do a good job of recruiting, and I think that's one of the things that we did here before, and we're working to do again. Finding those kids that are the overachievers, finding those kids that have that want to, that might not be those heavily recruited kids, because some of these heavily recruited kids, they have the me, they don't have the want to. You know, all of a sudden they've gotten everything, they don't want it anymore. You know, they think they're enabled and entitled, and that's what you're trying to stay away from a recruiting process, so you don't make those kind of mistakes. But then what happens is, when you have a lot of guys that have that want to within your program, they'll either have those guys that might be on the fence or a little bit, either they'll raise it or they'll take care of it and tell them, you know, maybe you shouldn't be here.
UCF running essentially the same offense as with Mackenzie Milton?
Yeah.
Maybe deep a little bit more?
Huh?
Deep a little bit more?
They're taking advantage of what they think is their best for their personnel.
Looking from the
Where they're from. Look at the recruits. Size, speed, and athleticism, state of Florida. How many Division I players we have up here in Connecticut, in the Northeast? How many they got more than that. They got 3 times that right there in Orlando. You know, I mean, take a look at their roster. They don't pretty much go out of the state of Florida. It makes a difference, and they're right there in the middle of the state. So you can draw from Jacksonville, you can draw from Tallahassee, Tampa, you know, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, you know, over in Naples and those areas. So, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, they've been able to, and then they do a good job. But they have a lot of talent. Got a lot of talent.
Randy, with the ability now to redshirt kids after they played 4 games, what's that process like for you and where your program is at? And how do you balance the pros and cons of letting a kid immediately get as much experience as possible versus bringing them back with that extra year still intact?
Well, you know, I have a plan in my mind with each kid, each freshman, what we're trying to do with them. And there could be some guys that we play, you know, in 4 games this year, or at least try to get them in so they get that experience, but not have them use the year of eligibility unless there would be an injury. You know, we got 2 young tackles up front, Rayante and Chase, and again, you think they have ability. So, and Andrews, Torres Silva, you know, probably have him where he can have an ability to maybe get in 4 games, but then Chase will practice, and if we get a chance, you know, the same thing with Rayante. You know, Jordan Morrison is a guy who played on special teams. You know, Jordan Morrison might be a guy we continue to play on special teams. But, you know, DJ got a little bit nicked last week, but we think he's going to be okay. So Jordan's going to play on special teams. He might get an opportunity to play linebacker, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be on the field for you next year. So you want to at least get him the experience, but now do you use 4 games or do you use the year? You know, and those are the things that you try to do. But in doing so, you're never losing sight of the fact that you're trying to win games. And that's the bottom line. Because I'm not going to jeopardize the hard work of other guys just to say, hey, okay, we're getting ready for, you know, whatever. You know, we got to do what we got to do to win the games. And that's what we're trying to do. And Some of it might mean that we play some guys in only 4, or might not even play them in 4. Might just practice on the second team, but never get in. And then there might be guys that, because of injury, that maybe we didn't think we would want to use up a year of eligibility. We're going to have to. So, the thing that's bad, though, I mean, and again, this is all personal preference, and I'm not, talking negatively about anybody, but you see now where somebody's season isn't going so good, and their starting quarterback says, "Hey, I'm done playing this year." And I'm sure that's a conversation the head coach and the quarterback had to think that we'll be better next year. But now you're almost saying that, okay, we're taking this year to develop us for next year, because they did have a coaching change. But that's the one thing that you see. And then you saw last year where a quarterback got beat out, and they went with the younger guy, and he wasn't going to play, and he left and went in the portal. So there's a lot more on a head coach's plate nowadays than there was when I first got started in this business, and I'm not so sure it's all good. I think it might be good for the player, but or people think it's good for the player, but sometimes I don't know. I mean, that's decisions that are above my pay scale and above anybody listening to what I got to say. So,
In general, though, is that
why do you have a follow-up? I knew you
I just love talking to you. I was off last week.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I
Where'd
went
you
down
go?
to DC.
Huh?
Went down to DC.
Oh, I pity you. Fighting that stuff down there? No.
I'll play. No play.
Oh, so you have a girl down there now. So you don't I'm just kidding.
I know. It's got to be complicated to try and consider what's best for a kid, what's best for the team, what's best for the program. Whereas like a true freshman who you might think is the best option to play every week this year, I'm sure you're also battling, well, man, he'd be really good as a fifth-year senior. That's the dilemma.
That is hard. It is hard. And, and you just try, what you try to do is you just try to make the decisions that you feel are best for your program and best for the young man. And trying to help your program win, and not trying to take advantage of a young man if you don't have to. And then you sit down with them and you tell them, hey, here's what the thought process is, here's what we're thinking to do. But what compounds that is the fact is if you do get injuries. If you get injuries, then, and that's why I do like the rule, because if you get an injury, you can plug a guy in for a couple games, but not lose a full year. I do like that. I do like the rule. I do like the rule for the freshmen that you can do that. Because, like I said, because you do get some injuries that tell you that you're going to have to play somebody maybe for a week or two. But you take a look at you look at your depth, and you evaluate the personnel. And at some positions you say, okay, well, I got to play this guy all year long, at least as, having as a backup, whether he gets into a game offensively or defensively as a backup, well, he can play on special teams, so he's going to gain experience playing, if he's a 4-core special teams guy, he might get 20 snaps a game. So now you're going to be better off for next year if he becomes a player for you on defense or on offense, whatever. And that's the... that's the thing where you got to have guys that are bought into, like last week. I mean, we played 55 guys last weekend, which is quite a bit for a game that, you weren't way ahead or something along those lines. And, but, that's why it's important, because, the second team doesn't get as many reps during the week as the first team guys do. So they got to be prepared, and they got to be ready to go. And they got to understand that, and then there's, like defensive line, those 8 guys know they're going to roll in there, and so we might go, instead of a 6-3 rotation, we go 5-4 with those guys in practice, because we know those guys are going to play. But, on the offensive line, it's hard to rotate guys in because of all the different communication stuff that takes place. You usually don't see that. So.
How much deeper are you as a team than last year, and how hard is it to build depth in a program? I
think we're a lot deeper than we have been. A lot of it's young, though. I mean, that's that's the thing that you look at, and I think I said it on the call on Sunday. I mean, on defense one time, I mean, we had, there was 2 juniors out there, Tyler Coyle and Dylan Harris, but Dylan's really a freshman, you know, because he hasn't, you know, he's only played 3 games for us, and everybody else was a freshman, redshirt freshman or sophomore, which is good. And then the same thing, you know, with on offense it sometimes, where we didn't have certain guys out there. So, you know, building depth is something you're always trying to do. We have more now. We're building that up now. And you know, I think, you know, after this year, we should be in really good shape. You know, from a roster management standpoint, after we add this class this year, then I think it's going to be a little bit easier. You're not going to have the disparity, I don't think, in terms of the classes. You should be able to have, you know, 14, 15, 16 seniors a year and have guys that are 50-year seniors. Because that's what's really got to, you know, make our program, you know, as long as, you know, they get good and then they don't, you know, you got to hold the graduation date back off.
Is this a series that you'd like to maybe see continue? And what about playing other league teams? I know you have some input on scheduling, but don't control it. Would you like to play some or many of the teams in the league still?
Yeah, we've had discussions with UCF. I think we, you know, not to get ahead of myself because I'm only concerned about this year, but I know we've had, there's been some discussions. And there are some teams that, from the AAC that you still want to play because it makes sense for what we want to do from a recruiting standpoint.
How do you expect Jack to bounce back this week?
I think he'll be better. You know, I think, you know, I probably didn't do a good enough job of trying to prepare him as much as I could for, you know, going there and doing the things, you know, being on the road for the first time and just talking to him and keeping him settled down. But because I think he got flustered right almost in that, after we got the first down when that guy came and got hit. I think that kind of shook him up a little bit. And, you know, I tried to talk to him nice when he came off, and then I kind of didn't talk to him nice when he came off then another time. So, you know, I called Dan Orlowski. I said, hey, do me a favor, call Jack and tell him what it's like to be a freshman playing quarterback, and give him some insight. And I talked to Jack about it, and I think that'll help him. He'll be fine. He's a competitor, you know. And again, you got to remember, he's just a true freshman, you know, that came in here in June, May, you know, and started, you know, his college career. So, you know, I've been used to that with a guy before, and you know, you got to be careful because you don't want to give the kid too much too soon, and you don't want to overload him to make it really hard on him with all the other things that he has to do on the football field. So, you know, we can do, and I can do a better job of making sure that we help him as much as we can. But I'm not worried about him. He's a competitor, and he has the want to. You know, he has the want to.
Everybody good?
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Come on, Chase.